I'd like to welcome in now Democratic strategist Nichole Rubin. He's also the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under President Obama. Nichole, great to see you. Thank you so much for your time.
You too, Nichole.
Let's talk about this meeting in Saudi Arabia. It's about the Russian-Ukraine war, but Ukraine not represented. Does that make sense to you? And what do you think is the reasoning behind that approach?
Well, it's always easy to negotiate when you don't have the adversary in the room, isn't it, Nichole? I mean, look, this is a one-way dialogue between Russia and the United States, and that's all well and good. And it's important for the United States to understand what the Russians want and where they are. But this is not a negotiation right now. A negotiation will, as you point out, require Ukraine to be in the room at the table and at the front end of any further talks. My concern here is that we are now taking on the burden. We, meaning the United States, are now taking on the burden of somehow now being responsible for resolving this, when this is a multilateral problem that has many different actors, including our allies in Europe. So we're putting a lot on our shoulders without a lot of clarity right now. And this will require a lot more intensive American diplomacy ongoing. And I think that we're not really going to see a lot of constructive dialogue without Ukraine involved immediately.
All right, so Joel, let's talk about the old adage, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. I'd like to focus on the relationship between Trump and Putin. Let's listen to some of what President Trump has said about Vladimir Putin in the past.
I think he wants to stop fighting. They have a big, powerful machine. You understand that.
I believe he wants peace. I believe that President Putin, when I spoke to him yesterday, I know him very well. Yeah, I think he wants peace. I think he would tell me if he didn't. He can't be thrilled. He's not doing so well. I mean, he's grinding it out, but most people thought that war would have been over in about 1 week. And now you're into 3 years, right?
All right, Joel. So from your perspective, talk about Trump's view of Putin and how that differs from the previous administration.
Well, it doesn't just differ from the previous administration. It differs from the American Congress and both parties for a number of years, going back a decade now. I'm not quite sure what the president is using to base his assessment that Vladimir Putin doesn't want military action when Russia is invading and is currently occupying Ukrainian territory. It'd be very easy for this war to stop. All Russia would have to do is stop and pull back to its borders. So clearly, the president sees, and I think he's right in seeing this, that there needs to be an end to this war. The problem is the assessment about who's the victim and who's the perpetrator. It's very odd. I just have to say that the United States is asking Ukraine to pay for reparations when Russia invaded it. Typically, it's the perpetrator of the conflict that pays the bill, not the victims. So I think that the president is sort of being misled by Vladimir Putin. President Zelensky has said so as well. And it'd be good to get an end state by understanding truly that Vladimir Putin is the one who started this war.
Yeah, and this war certainly, has raged on for so much longer, I think, than really anyone expected. Joel, talk about the European leaders' response to Trump's approach to the war. We see that the EU is seeking a military revival, wants to support Ukraine. What do you think this could mean for the United States going forward when it comes to some of these countries we have considered allies?
Well, we have to remember they are allies. They are trading partners. They are military allies within NATO. We share common values. We are democracies. These are not people to turn our backs on. And they are concerned because Russia has invaded a European country and has saber-rattled against them as well for a number of years, assassinated individuals on their territory in Britain. We'll hear about this next week when Keir Starmer comes here, and many other examples. So they're worried, they're nervous, they have a reason to be nervous. I do think they have a major role in this and in what does take place. And they're certainly now looking inward. And this is part of President Trump's doctrine to have more self-reliance. And I think now the Europeans are recognizing they may have to be more self-reliant going forward for their own security than depending on the United States through the NATO alliance.
All right, so Joel, my last question for you. Let's bring out the crystal ball. I won't ask you to predict what ultimately happens, but what do you think happens next when it comes to the war in Ukraine?
Well, I wish I had my crystal ball, but I'll tell you, look, I think President Zelensky is smart, and he's going to engage, and he's going to try to shape this now, and he's going to try to make sure that President Trump understands that to truly achieve his goal, which, again, is a laudable goal, and is a goal that we should all share to end this war, that he is going to have to set some benchmarks for Vladimir Putin that are hard and that are not simple, but that must be achieved to provide real guarantees of security for Ukraine and Russia.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.